short video presentation, I've been asked to speak about three key dates in Malta's long winding history. My choice is 870 AD, 1769 and 1947. As I hope to be able to show, this selection allows for a brief swap across the centuries. Let's start with 870 AD. In that year, through military conquest, Malta became part of Dar al-Islam. That is, it was now part of the Arab Muslim Empire, which covered much of the Mediterranean. The conquest of Malta was part of the wider Arab conquest of Sicily. And it should be noted that both before and after 870 AD, Malta's history was closely intertwined with that of Sicily. In fact, geography is often one of those undramatic but deeply important elements that shape the story of a territory and its people. Now, the Arab-Muslim conquest of Malta seems to have been a very violent episode, so much so that sources speak of the island having been left an uninhabited ruin. Now, there is debate as to the extent of the depopulation of the islands, but what is clear is that a Christian society was replaced by a Muslim one for the next 200 to 300 years. We do not have much by way of physical remains from that period, but there is evidence that the landscape was significantly altered. Eventually, Islam itself was replaced by Christianity, but through a process of conversion and assimilation rather than cataclysmic destruction. And the evidence for this lies in a very significant but intangible bit of heritage from the Arab-Muslim period, the Maltese language. What is also fascinating about this period is the way the memory of it still causes debate and even anxiety. What can be called a Muslim skeleton in the cupboard of a Christian nation can still generate surprisingly passionate reactions. So we'll move to the second date, 1769. This is the year when the University of Malta was founded. Now, you might think that I'm being a bit biased in my choice, since this is the birthday of my alma mater, and I will admit a bit of subjectivity, but then again, history is the discipline that tries to make sense of what women and men in the past tried to do, and that is always a subjective exercise. But I do think that 1769 can tell us a number of things. The University of Malta was founded by the Knights of Malta. This was a military religious institution whose roots went all the way back to 11th century Jerusalem. They had settled in Malta in 1530. In 1565, the Knights and people of Malta fought off an onslaught by the Ottoman Empire, the Great Siege. And then 1 year later, 1566, the city of Valletta was founded. Valletta became the political, economic, cultural, religious heart of Malta, so that the foundation of a university in 1769 was part of this much wider process of development. It was also part of a process through which the Knights and later the British sought to reduce Malta's long dependence on Sicily. And that's a very important element in the long run. And of course, as a seat of learning, the university has formed generations of women and men. And that brings me to my final date, 1947. This is the year when, under the terms of a new constitution, Malta gained self-government within the British Empire, and for the first time, women in Malta were allowed to vote. Malta had become a British colony at the start of the 19th century. Its role within the empire was that of a fortress colony. Over the years, there were a number of constitutional arrangements which sought to meet local demands for representation. Constitutional reform does not necessarily mean equitable representation and democracy. The political formula is always more nuanced. Women being able to vote and stand for election as from 1947 signaled a small but important step along the path to independence in 1964, and from there, the evolution of a pluralistic society. For sure, like much of the rest of the world, it is a society that finds itself polarized on many issues, but that is why history, warts and all, matters.